All right, Miss Simon, this is my response to you. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. I don't know if you've seen any of my previous videos where I answer certain questions this way. Questions I receive either on Facebook or through PM on YouTube. I normally will use this program to read the question and then respond to it. So I believe you sent me this question last night. So yeah, I felt that it was my response would be pretty lengthy, hence this video. So I hope the advice and everything I talk about in this video will help you. So let me go ahead and read your question. Hey Moses, I would like to ask for some advice. Since you studied Chinese at university, would you say it's worth it to study a language at the university? Thing is, here in the UK, the fees for a degree are really expensive. I also really enjoy self-studying, but I know that I can be easily distracted. Thus, I rarely concentrate on one language at a time. What would you say are the benefits of studying a language, specifically Chinese, at university? Would you recommend that, or rather self-studying with efforts of immersion into the language, such as traveling? Do you think you would have reached such a high level of Chinese if you hadn't gone to university? All right, so I'm going to try to break this up into 3 different parts. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the incentives and the drawbacks for taking a language at the university. And then the second thing I want to talk about is the what's the second thing? Suggestions. No, suggestions will be the third. First, incentives, drawbacks. What was the second? What was the suggestions? Oh, the second will be my experience. My experience with Chinese and, my story behind taking at the university and whatnot. So let's start with the incentives and drawbacks. So I talked about this a lot before in previous videos. This is going to be based off of my own experience. So keep that in mind. Some incentives for the first incentive for taking a language at the university is you're going to stay focused, especially if you're spending money. If you're the type of person, as you mentioned here, who will get distracted easily, taking a language course at the university will keep you focused because you spent all that money taking that class. So if you find yourself in that type of state, perhaps taking a language course would be ideal. Some other incentives. In another video I made, I think a week or two ago, I talked about learning language at the university. I believe it was a response to a question of the week video. Someone in the comment area, I believe it was my buddy Mr. Wayne, Mark Wayne, he mentioned that taking a language at the university could also help you get recommendations, like if you plan to study abroad or get some sort of internship overseas. If you've taken a certain amount of language courses and the professors have gotten to know you well, they could write up a good recommendation for you. So that's another incentive of studying a language at the university from the beginning all the way to the end. What are some other incentives? Stay focused, recommendations, and also exposure, like exposure to other students who are learning the language, and then you have a native speaker. Most of the time you have a couple native speakers at the university, and then you can practice with them. In my experience, I took like a language like Zulu. I wanted to learn Zulu. I wanted to learn it independently, but I had a big problem trying to find South Africans. I couldn't find any South Africans online or in person, hence taking that class at the Ohio State University. I took all the classes. There were like 4. It was like 101 to 104, I believe. And I enjoyed all the classes because, like I said, the exposure, and I was able to practice with the native speaker, the teacher. So those are incentives. Now, drawbacks. For me, I like learning at the university, like the pace is really slow. I will learn at a fast pace, and it just doesn't match up with my learning style. And you being in a class with other students, you have to follow what they're doing. You can't really speed ahead. I mean, you could do more things outside of the class, but when it comes to interaction with the teacher, she asks questions. You got to stick to what's being taught in the class. In my experience, I had problems with this. I had teachers tell me, "Oh, don't use that. Just stick to what we've learning." So you're pretty much limited. That's one drawback, and that's something that I experienced. Another drawback is, of course, you have to pay a lot of money, especially if you're wanting to get really good at that language. You have to you want to have to pay a lot of money, not only for taking the classes, but also for studying abroad, unless you get some sort of scholarship or grant for to do so. You have to pay all that money. It takes a long time. It's going to take a lot of time. It takes maybe 5 to 6 years. What else? So fees. Let's see, fees, and let's see what was the other thing. Fees, the time, the pace. Those are major drawbacks, at least for me. And I think that's it for that group. I hope I covered everything there. Let's see here. All right, so drawbacks and incentives. Let's move on to the next category. So, let me see. So my experience with Chinese. First of all, like before I moved to Columbus, Ohio, I already knew how to speak Chinese. I wasn't like, I guess I would say I was like intermediate around there. So I had a lot of experience already with the language. So when I moved here, I looked into taking some placement tests. I didn't want to start from the beginning because I had so much experience with the language. So someone told me that it was possible to take a placement test at the university. I just had to set up an appointment. So I called up there. I spoke with the gentleman, and he set up an appointment. He said, "Okay, we're going to have you come in the next day or a couple of days later, and we're going to have you take this placement test." So when I got there, we basically spoke in Chinese for between 20 and 30 minutes. And then after that, he gave me something to read, like one of the books they use there for one of the classes, the writing and reading classes. And I read pretty well, but there are some characters I couldn't read, so I had to skip over them. And then he recommended me to take a writing. It was a reading and writing class. I think it was if I'm not mistaken, it was like a 3rd year class or something like that. I took that class. And then when my performance was really good in that class, particularly the oral part. When we had, because there were 2 sections, there was a reading and writing, and then there was this oral part where the teacher speaks all in Chinese. She asks questions, and I was the only person in the class, very, I would say, active with the Chinese, very fluid with the language, and I had a good performance for the whole year, not for the whole year, but for the whole quarter. And then one of the teachers had asked me if I wanted to go up to another level, and that was I believe it was a 5th year level class. It was an advanced course, more of a spontaneous Chinese course. And then I told her sure, and I wouldn't mind doing that. And I took I don't know, it wasn't necessarily a placement test, but she kind of tested me. She had me watch some sort of talk show, and then she asked me, "Well, do you understand what what they're talking about? Do you get the meaning, blah, blah, blah," and all that stuff? And I told her, yeah, and I explained to her what was going on. So she allowed me to take that class. So basically, in terms of languages, I only took 2 language classes at the university. After I took the placement test, they gave me if I remember correctly, they gave me it was like 45 or 50 EM credits. Basically, EM credits are credits that you earn from basically passing out of a certain class, and I was able to get those credits. So 2 language classes, and that was it. That was all I took at the university. So my point in sharing that with you is I can't really, in terms of the Chinese, since this is the language that you're interested in taking, I can't really tell you that it was a great idea to take Chinese at the university, Ohio State University. I've gotten to the level I'm on now because of the university, because I didn't start from the beginning. I didn't start learning Chinese as a beginner at the university. However, I do know several people who have started from the beginning and they're on high levels. But they excuse my language, they worked their asses off. I mean, they did extra work outside of the class. They had what do you call them? They had mentors. They spent time in China, in the abroad programs. They really put in a lot of work. But they start learning language from the beginning and got to a high level. So I can't say, I'm not going to tell you that it's not a good idea or it's a good idea. What I should say is it depends on your goals. It depends on what you want to do in the future. So this is very important. Let's see here. So yeah, if you're let's see. Okay, did I wrap that up? Let's see. Before I go into suggestions. Okay, that was my story of Chinese. Okay. Oh, okay. Let me finish something else. Yeah. Then after, like, more about my language experience, as I always talk about before, I spent a lot of time in chat rooms. I go out leveling up with the native speakers, and then I got married. My wife is from Taiwan. After I got married with her, I learned more Chinese. Of course, that's more exposure for me because I get to hear the language every day. So that's basically my experience with Chinese. So the level I'm on now in Chinese is basically from what I've been doing over the years, and that's putting myself out there, practicing with native speakers, leveling up, all that stuff. I can't give any type of credit to the university because like I said, I only took 2 classes, and a lot of the stuff in those classes I already knew. The spontaneous Chinese course was a little bit more difficult, but that was to be expected because it's a higher level. But all in all, I had a lot of knowledge in the language already. So yeah, so that's how I got to the level I'm on now. Now, if you don't have, because it takes a lot of motivation and ambition to learn a language independently. If you don't have that, if you find yourself being distracted, then taking a language at the university may be ideal. So that's it. Let me go ahead and wrap this up with the suggestions. So my suggestion for you is, like I just mentioned, if you feel that you can't learn a language by yourself, you're getting distracted, you have lack of motivation or whatever, you may want to take a class, a class that's going to keep you focused. Or if you want to save money, I would suggest finding a partner. Find someone who is just as interested as you are in learning the language. Partner up with them, set up a schedule, meet up with them at least 4 or 5 hours a week, and tell them that you would like to study with them for at least a year. If you guys do that together and you stay consistent, you will get good results. Of course, try to interact with the native speakers once you get to a level where you feel comfortable. Let's see. And I mean, that's pretty much it. That's all I could really suggest. You have to keep in mind that everything is just about your goals, what you want. So if you don't have any big plans on, trying to work overseas or, try to study abroad or even teaching Chinese, because in order to teach Chinese in the university, you have to have a Chinese degree. Now that I know, you have to have that. But if you just want to learn a language to communicate, be able to speak it, then you really don't have to go to the university. You can do it on your own. But again, it takes a lot of motivation and consistency. If you don't have that, then university may be more ideal for you. So that is it. I hope I answered your question thoroughly, and I hope I covered everything. So if you have any other questions, let me know. I will get back to you. It took me a while to respond to you after you sent me that message because, like I said, my response is pretty lengthy. So I said, you know what, let me just go ahead and make a video response, and this may help out some others who have similar questions as you. So that is it. If you have any more questions, let me know. Otherwise, good luck, and have fun, and have a good one.